Welcome back to another episode of 10,000 Voices. You already know my name is Sybil Stewart, and I am dedicated to amplifying the voices of entrepreneurial women. I am thrilled to have Miss Devon Bruce on the call today. How are you today, Devon?
I am doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
I am too. So we met via networking, and just a little bit of background about Devon. She is the CEO and founder of the English Communication Academy. She is an up and coming LinkedIn top voice and influencer. Oh my gosh. We're
Thank
talking
you.
even about how you did that. And you're learning Arabic.
Yes.
Ready to jump into that too. So, first question is, what is your origin story? Why did you start this phenomenal business? And how long have you been in business?
Well, before I begin, I just really want to say thank you for having me. I appreciate you. I appreciate the platform. I appreciate what you do. It's very important work. And I'm very excited and humbled to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me.
You.
But to talk about my origin story, so it actually started in 2016. I had a corporate job at the time, and my then 6-year-old daughter needed to be homeschooled. She was falling through the cracks because she was doing advanced work and she wasn't getting the attention that she needed. And so I made the decision to quit my job and homeschool her. And that was, people thought I was crazy at the time, but I knew that this is what she needed. And I had no idea what I was going to do. So I literally just put my hands up to God and I said, God, I don't care where you put me, as long as what I do is fun and it's rewarding and I can pay my portion of the bills. So at the time I was still married. And that's how I started getting into teaching English as a second language, or ESL teaching. So I was able to do that from home. So I got my certification in 2016 to do that. And so for 4 years, from 2016 to 2020, I did that. And I taught for what we call box companies, where you just teach the language to people who sign up. And in that 4-year period, I came across a lot of doctors in particular, and I really liked working with them because they were serious, they were passionate about it. But I also noticed over time that I kept hearing the same complaints over and over again. Like, I'm already fluent. I know this already. These are regular English classes. I need critical skills. I need presentation skills. I need the nuances of English. Like the regular English teaching classes were not a good fit for them because they already knew English.
Right.
And so how I started my business was in 2020, not because of the pandemic. Actually, I got divorced and I was at my rock bottom. I was 39 at the time. I walked away from a 20-year relationship slash marriage, and I had to humbly move back in with my parents. And I had nothing. I had to, my rock bottom was when I wanted to go to this grocery store and get some bread and milk for my kids, and I didn't have enough money in my account. So I felt like a huge failure at that time. 39, I have a master's degree, and then here I am having to start all the way over as that stigma of being a single mom with 2 young kids at the time, and I didn't even have enough money to go get the basic of basic foods.
Yeah.
So then at that point, I was like, "Okay, God, this is my lowest. Failure is not an option. I'm not gonna feel any lower than this. So the only way I can go is up. What do I do?" And then I just had the thought. I had the thought of, what is the biggest, wildest dream that I can think of, because I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna start my business teaching, helping doctors with their English. I'm gonna stop teaching with these box companies and just go all in and work and to create my own business. And that's exactly what I did. So at the time in 2020, when I had a 10-week coaching program that I taught individually to doctors. And then over time, I worked and I worked and I worked. And then about 5 months ago, I scaled to a full-blown membership program where now I offer online courses. We get together once a week and they practice their speaking skills in a group. We have a private online community. I have industry leaders and experts that come in once a month and they do special workshops for them. So yeah, it's very rewarding helping the helpers in this way.
That I think so often the stigma in our communities of color as well as women is we're afraid of that rock bottom moment. But what I have found is that rock bottom is where so many women are finding themselves or finding
Yeah,
out what their true north is or that thing
right.
that they know they're called to do. And I hit my similar rock bottom. I said, nothing will break you faster than a near stroke. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, ooh, I almost had a stroke working in corporate. This is not what God
Wow.
planned for me, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I just think there's so many aha moments that you just talked about, one of which is around your client base, because I don't think people understand how hard it is to learn English and to also learn the nuances of our English. Can you talk more about that?
Yes. Absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up because one of the things that I hear, and understandably, is
Yeah.
that, well, what's the big deal? It's quote unquote just English. And it's like, no, it's not just English. English, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, is the universal language and it provides people access. And if they don't feel comfortable speaking English, it blocks them from their blessings. It blocks them from their opportunities, and it also blocks them from just being the best version of themselves because a lot of them feel that call to serve.
Yeah.
And so a good example of this is I have a member from Saudi Arabia, lives in New York, and he was getting complaints about his bedside manner. And he reached out to us because he was like, I don't understand why I'm getting all of these complaints, and it was bothering him a lot because he felt that call to serve and to be a doctor. So the fact that he was getting complaints about him being a doctor and his approach was really bothering him. Anyway, long story short, he didn't know at the time that we use our voice for clarity.
Yeah.
So, for example, we can say the same sentence five different ways and have five different meanings.
Yep.
And so, in his language of Arabic and a lot of other languages around the world, it's not like that. The meaning doesn't really change based off of how you say it. So
Yeah.
once he started learning, oh, my delivery, the way I use my voice, the power of my voice, it can change based off of what I'm saying to them. He started learning those nuances that a lot of books don't cover.
Yeah.
So it's those little things that can make all the difference in the medical field in particular, because if you're having to give someone very bad news and your bedside manner is not good, that can be traumatic.
Yes. This is a cheap plug for why AI will never replace people. AI
Exactly.
cannot teach you the nuances of the energy that your words is carrying. And English
Yes.
is a very energetic language, much
Yes.
like Korean. My brother-in-law is Korean, and like there's an inflection for
Mm-hmm.
excitement versus sadness that comes from the delivery. And if you miss that, you will be misinterpreted. But more than
Yeah.
that, I think you're also addressing some of the cultural and societal norms that
Mm-hmm.
we as um, Americans have that other cultures don't. So it's
Right.
not only the English, it's also the body language, the
Right.
show up, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
another thing too is that people don't realize that English is deeply intuitive. For
Yeah.
example, phrasal verbs. We don't learn them in school, but non-native English speakers have to learn them, and it is very confusing for someone to understand what they're about. And we, as native English speakers, oh, actually, I've had some native speakers come to me on LinkedIn and be like, Devon, I didn't even know those had a name. When I would make a post sometimes about phrasal verbs and how to use them, they would
Yeah.
be like, I didn't even know that they even existed. That's how much we take them for granted, and that's how deeply embedded they are in the language. However, non-native English speakers have to learn them abstractly where we learn them intuitively. So that's another thing that I focus on is having them develop their intuition about English, like feel their way to the meaning,
Yes.
because that is very efficient when you're trying to develop skills quickly.
It's like you're providing an immersion incubator for medical practitioners, right? Like, let
Thank
me
you.
immerse
Yes.
you in this thing. You don't need to go and spend 6 months long.
Right.
Spend 8, 10 weeks with me, and you will get the immersion experience that will close the gap.
Yeah, because that's the thing that I focus on because they're already fluent. They use English every day in the medical field. I don't teach them the language. I show them how to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference. So, some of my members, to be perfectly honest, they stay for a couple of months. Some stay indefinitely because they really like the support. So I'm just here as a resource to help them get to where they're trying to go.
That is really great work.
Thank
Um,
you.
so you said you started your business about 2020. 2020 was a strange time for the
It
entire world.
was.
Tell
Yeah.
me, what was the best investment and worst investment that you've made thus far as an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, this is gonna probably be a weird answer, but it's the truth. I would say it's the best and the worst investment all in one.
Yeah.
I would say coaching, helping people start my coaching and helping me learn LinkedIn and the power of it. Because oftentimes people you got to be careful when it comes to these coaches. And I've had a few of them where they sell you the dream and not the reality. And so a lot of people get caught up on these dreams that they're trying so hard to achieve, and they monetize that and they take thousands of dollars of your money because they know how hungry you are for change and how hungry you are to just just go for your dream. So, on the one hand, I have learned a lot. But on the other hand, the fact that I was not sold the reality. I was not prepared for the reality of building for when I first started a coaching practice
Yeah.
and everything that comes along with it. It left a bad taste in my mouth because I felt like I got burned a couple of times.
Yeah.
But I learned though, that's the thing. It wasn't all in vain because I learned. I got something out of it.
Yeah, I agree. And people say, "Why don't you want to call yourself a coach?" I said the coaching industry is coming to a head right now, and what I
Yeah.
do is so much more personal than coaching.
Mhm.
That's why I said, like, I'm an advocate, and I've helped women get out of really bad coaching agreements that
Yeah.
only serve the coach when I
Right.
find out that they didn't read the fine print, or the fine print is so um weirdly written, it's almost impossible to untangle the
Mhm.
very intentional ball that they've woven
Mhm.
because they want to try to keep your money. And so I think that's why it's so important that we protect how we call ourselves and what we allow other people to call us as well. Uh,
Right.
so yeah, same. Your answer,
Yeah.
number one answer, coaching, best or worst investment, depending on who your coach is.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's like a mechanic, It's like some of them are really hard to find, but once you find the one,
You
you keep them for life.
right. I'm a lifer with my mechanic. Um, what resources, tools, or books have you found most useful that you can share with our early stage entrepreneurs?
I would say Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's a classic. I strongly recommend anyone read that because in order for you to really take the plunge into the entrepreneurial space, you're really going to have to change your mindset because you're probably going to have feasts and you're probably going to have famines with your money. And it's really important in those hard times, especially that you got to keep the faith and you got to keep that mindset intact. And then also, too, when you're having a feast, not to get complacent and not think it's always going to be like that until you reach a certain level, of course. Once you reach a certain level, then you grow and build. But those beginning times, it's not stable. It's not, you know, you go through a lot of ups and downs. So to prepare for that and to note and to realize that it's so much more about your mindset versus action, because that's something that I really wish I could go back and tell my former self a few years ago. You know, I could work 24/7, but if my mindset is abundantly blocked because of whatever's going on, well, it didn't, you know, I had struggles of it coming in. So, you know, I've had to do a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, to answer your question, definitely check out Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a classic.
It's by my bedside. Like
Oh, yeah, it's
anytime I need a
great.
quick pick me up, I have tabs on
Mhm.
the section. I'm one of those people who defaces books. Yes, I do. Tabs where I like wrote inside the book because there's just so much good information in there.
Mhm.
Which leads me to my next question, actually. What's the worst piece of advice that you got when you first started? People are passing out really bad advice.
They are.
What's the worst
They
piece of advice you
are.
got when you started your business?
Oh my gosh, that it was gonna be faster than I basically, it was promised that I was gonna reach a certain level quicker than average because I was with the right coach, and that was furthest from the truth. It is a grind. It is slow. It can be very lonely at times, and it's not easy. That's why a lot of people burn out, especially when they get aligned with some people who sell you on the dream. And then when that dream is not the reality and you're knee deep in reality, it burns people out, which is really unfortunate because there's a lot of people who are passionate and they really want to help people with their businesses.
Yeah, yeah. So many of the women that I've brought on here talk about loneliness and how they manage it. How
Mhm.
do you manage it? And then the other thing to think is what loneliness in this space looks like is different from our universal
Yeah.
definition, right? Because there are people who are moms and have spouses and all of that, and they still talk about
Yeah.
the loneliness in this journey. How do you manage that?
I would say the way that I did it was always go back to my why,
Yeah.
because the why can become convoluted when you've got bills to pay, when you've got kids that need you, when you know what I mean, when life is just really showing up. You got to make sure you go back to why am I doing this? What is my purpose? Is this my higher calling? You know, you got to always just recenter yourself
Yeah.
and always just remember why you're here, why you're doing this, why are you walking this solo journey of sorts.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell people I lean into my faith and then I lean into my love for myself. And I said, if I
Yeah,
love me enough, I'm going to go and do the thing to make sure that, right, I center me and show
yeah,
myself love so I can show love to others.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's another thing too that um I think people get caught up in, especially when they're starting. When you see like the success stories and the flashing and again, you know, all of that stuff, yeah, that's great, but you might not know the whole story.
That's
They're
right.
just telling you what people want to hear, like a small portion of it. Like I've had people come to me and be like, "Oh, Devin, you know that's great. I think you make it seem so easy," and I'm like, no." Even to this day, 4.5 years in, I'm in the grind still. It's a different kind of grind because I'm building a membership versus into getting individual clients. But
Yeah.
I'm still in the trenches, if you will, doing the legwork. It's just a different kind
Yeah.
now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit more about that membership in a second.
Okay.
Um, complete this sentence.
Okay.
One thing that I believe only women entrepreneurs experience is,
The stigma of motherhood and the selfishness, quote unquote, of pursuing what you want. I feel like we as women, not just mothers, but just women in general, we are labeled selfish if we are not identified as selfless.
Yeah.
And that is a stigma that men do not have to worry about. Because if you are in your 40s and you don't have kids, you're labeled selfish. Yeah. Yeah, you're labeled selfish. And then if you are a woman with kids in your 40s, like me, and I'm single, whoo, oh my goodness, there is something fundamentally wrong with me.
Wrong.
You know, how dare you? How dare you do what you do? Don't you have kids? What are you doing? Yeah, so it's like it's just the stigma of just being a woman going for it is real.
Absolutely. Tracy Ellis Ross did a talk. I was streaming it on YouTube, and she was like, "Ladies, stop torturing other women for going for something more than a husband, kid,
Yeah.
and the white picket fence." Like, she talks so intelligently about her journey. She's like, "I've seen the world. I've been to places most
Yeah.
people, I've done the things, I own companies, and yet it still falls short of societal expectations." And I'm listening to her, Tracy Ellis Ross, and I'm like, sis, I am you, just a little
Yeah.
bit younger.
Yeah.
Um,
It's so real.
it's so real. And it comes
And
from
it's
other women.
unfortunate.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
the reason why like what you do is so important because, you're giving people a voice to be like, you know what? It's okay that it's not a but, it's an and. And the and is okay. The and is where the happiness is, you know?
Choose your ands. I'm gonna do
Yes.
this and
Right. Exactly. You don't have to choose. You can do both.
oh my gosh. Yes, thank you. And I told somebody, God whispered this in my ear. I never thought of, oh, let me start a talk show.
Me too. Yeah. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would be sitting here talking with you about a business helping doctors with their but it's part of my calling. Like another example, I have a member, she is a NICU doctor for premature babies, and she gave me the best compliment I've ever received from any client of mine.
Yeah.
And she said, "Thank you because you're helping me sleep at night." And I never understood what she meant by that, but she was saying that her English was such an issue that she was about to be fired for it, and she would have to have these difficult conversations with these parents about their potentially dying premature babies. And
Yeah.
if you can only imagine her struggles trying to confidently explain this, but then the parents feeling like they're frustrated because they can't understand the doctor. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, I'm helping with that. I'm helping bridge that so that way she can be confident. There's no other feeling. There's no better feeling than that. I'm helping the helpers. So it's like I get it because I'm answering the call too.
Yeah. You're helping the helpers. Oh my goodness. I think this leads into one of the things that we were talking about, which is the guilt and shame of even partnering with you on these services from the
Mhm.
medical community. Because the thing is, you're supposed to have all solutions if you're a doctor. And this is
Mhm.
one solution you don't have, you can't create, you weren't taught in medical school, the
Mhm.
textbooks aren't going to teach you.
Mhm.
And so they either stall getting your help or they
Mhm.
will just grit, but then at the cost of their practice or
Yep.
professional reputation.
Yeah.
Um, wow. What do you think the tipping point is for the physicians who decide to work with you? Like, what's usually going on in their minds when they say, you know what, I've had enough, I need
Mhm.
help?
They usually hit some sort of rock bottom, and that rock bottom greatly varies. It could be a job that they got passed over for, and English was the only thing that was the defining thing for them. Them wanting to speak up in a meeting where they have a brilliant idea and they didn't feel confident or comfortable enough. Someone who needs to give a presentation on their groundbreaking research, and then they just didn't feel comfortable, and then they, fumbled, if they will, because they didn't present it in a way where people could see their brilliance.
Yeah.
So I would say it's usually some sort of rock bottom.
Interesting. And when you think about growing your membership, is that how you are communicating to your audience to say, like, here's how we can prevent your rock bottom from ever existing?
In some ways, I would say my content is varied because over the years, a lot of them are in leadership positions, and I look at my LinkedIn data, and the overwhelming majority of the people who follow me in the medical field are in like senior positions, like in leadership.
Yeah.
And so I guess to answer your question, it's more focused on things that are pain points for them. Like you can be introverted and be confident in your English. Things like that. You can use storytelling as a way to connect with people of diverse backgrounds. So I do talk about pain points, yes, but in a different way,
Yeah.
because one thing I am cognitive of is that I work with people from cultures from all over the world,
Yeah.
and some of them are way more reserved than others. And the last thing I want to do is to offend someone based off of me being too, I don't want to say aggressive in my content, but you know what I mean. There has to be a balance to it. There's a
Yeah.
have to be a balance where I am a bit more straightforward, and then others where it's a bit more, hey, you can be authentically yourself and be an effective communicator as well.
Yeah. When you think about the numbers of people you've served up until this moment, how
Mhm.
many of them would be willing to be evangelists for your membership program?
That's also something that's really hard because the stigma and the shame is so real. So a lot of them join in secret. This is something that they don't share because it's for a doctor to admit that they need help with their English it's real for them. So yeah, a lot of them don't. And I understand that. I do. Because it's something that's like, well, you're a doctor, you're supposed to know everything. And English is the most, quote, for them, is the most basic of most basic of most basic things that they should know. So the fact that a doctor needs help with something so basic, yeah, that's too much for them to even admit, which is why a lot of times I don't get word of mouth because of the shame attached to it.
I wonder then if your messaging, and I don't know if you've already done this,
Mhm.
your messaging is we can work in the cloak of darkness, protect your reputation, your public facing reputation,
Oh,
and do this. So some of the work that I do,
oh.
advocacy work, when I am helping, I tell people I'm Harriet Tubman over here. Uh, when I'm helping these women negotiate their severance agreements or helping these women um, craft their exits for
Mhm,
corporations, they are never going to leave me a public testimonial because they're looking for another job. And the
mhm,
last thing I
mhm.
want to do is compromise your next position.
Right.
So what ends up happening is I collect their testimonials in different ways with darn near signing a blood oath
Right.
that I will never reveal their name, the companies that they work for, because some of them do work in Fortune 500s, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And to say, like, if you leave me a testimonial, can we agree on the language, what I'm gonna scrub, what you want me to say, what you want me to promise that I won't say. I won't tag you on social media, but I will do this. And then the other thing that I do that you might want to consider is I always lag. So let's say we were to partner today, I will lag your testimony 2 months out. And then my social media might say, I was working with this doctor a couple of days ago,
Mhm.
right? So I will time bound it so that it's far enough from the time I actually partner with these women. So there's zero connection to the fact that I just saw you got a
Mhm.
promotion or a raise, but here we are, it's January, we might have worked together in October. So I
Right.
don't know if you might be able to do something like that so that you can start collecting some of that really awesome feedback, but then still protect their public facing identities.
That's actually a really good idea. Thankfully on LinkedIn, because most of my branding is on there. I'm very active on the platform. I do have some recommendations from some members, and I do have some. I'm so grateful for quite a few recommendations on my website for English Communication Academy. So I am extremely grateful for that for sure. But I do like the idea of, and I do have some that are anonymous as well that
Yeah.
I've used throughout social media. So I have done that, but I do like the idea of having a lag. I have not done that before, so that's a really good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think we're working in similar veins, right? Really high profile,
Hmm.
your client to medical, mine are, in the C-suite or executives, some of them
Hmm.
trying to start businesses and can't let anybody know. And that is what I found to be most effective for me
Hmm.
to maintain the integrity of the work that I do, but then also help them maintain their
Hmm.
public facing brand. Because, right, I still want to protect that
Yeah.
for them as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. So when
That's
you think
awesome.
of the membership, what do you envision for that?
You mean as far as like my long term goal?
Yeah, you said you wanted to
Ah,
start the membership. Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah.
So, I would say there's two long-term goals for my membership. One is I want it to be a one-stop shop one day. So I have staff for interview prep. I have staff for testing prep. I have staff for people who want to migrate to another country because a lot of them are looking for jobs either like in the US or Canada or the UK. So I have someone on staff to help them with that. I want someone on staff to um, help them with like immersion. You know, if they come to the country and they're just really struggling, they have an extra layer of support. So basically, I want to be a one-stop shop for them. That's really exciting, and that's something that I'm actively just thinking in my mind when I'm in the trenches every day, like where I'm going. And then a second layer of that, which is kind of surprising, is that I've been gaining over the years a IT following, and so I've been having more people ask me, "Hey, Devon, are you going to be, can I join as someone who works in IT?" And I tell them, this is just for people in the medical field because a lot of the material and stuff, it's greatly slanted towards them. But just the fact that I'm getting that more and more, what I want to do once get a certain level with the medical side, I basically want to like rinse and repeat for people under IT because it seems like there needs to be something that's for them as well.
Yes. IT, I came from IT. So yes, the
Yeah.
number of non-English speakers who
Mhm.
worked in our technical teams who
Mhm.
needed just that little bit more.
Mhm.
And then if you think about where they were on our customer success line, and it's like,
Mhm.
you're really intelligent, but we're losing clients over
Yeah.
here because your English doesn't match their English expectation.
Yep.
That is a very powerful transition that you're thinking about making. And I am curious, is anybody else in the market doing this kind of work?
Actually, no. My business is very unique, and when I go into like these networking things, they're like, "Wow, I would have never guessed." Like, I get two reactions. One, I would have never guessed that a service is like that, and two, wow, your service is greatly needed. So, yeah, there's not there. My business model is very unique. And so once I've been noticing the trend of like IT people following me, and they do show up to my LinkedIn audio events all the time. I'm like, okay, there is a need there that is not being met, and I once I get to that position, then I absolutely want to help them too.
There is a book I want to recommend to you because as you were
Okay,
talking, and like I said, I try to serve as much as possible on
thank
these
you.
calls. And the name of the book is called The Four Steps to the Epiphany. And I like this book because it talks about the four types of startups. And while we were talking, I was trying to figure out, are you niching in a market or are you creating a new market? And this book talks about how to get attention when you really are creating a new market, which you are. So the
Okay.
level of buy-in is different because you are doing two things at the same time. Number one, you're educating, right? Like, and then you have to inform that this market actually exists. So you have two entrepreneurial battles going on at the
Okay.
same time. Whereas me, I'm like, yeah, I'm not a coach, but if somebody called me a coach, I'm not too chafed by it. But
Yeah.
I am resegmenting in a pre-existing market. So I get to pull people out
I see.
of traditional coaching and put them in advocacy and put them in right. So I
Yeah.
get to resegment, whereas you're like, no, this is a brand new,
Yes. Yeah.
every everyone needs to know about this. I please borrow the book, buy the book, do whatever you need to
Yeah,
do.
I put it in my I saved it.
It's
Yeah.
on my phone. I listening to you talk about that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the book for you.
Thank you so
And
much.
to know you're absolutely, and to think that you are creating a new market, and to think about the other thing that I recommend too, and um look at how markets start. So, right, when we think Velcro, Velcro did not exist until this guy was up there playing around with stickies. Look at how markets start, look at how they beta test their new products, and look how they get people to evangelize. And really, your evangelists might even be English speakers who need nuance help. Because let's be honest, we have all worked with a physician who has less than stellar communication skills. And I'm like, why? Why
You know,
don't you?
it's so
You are
interesting
from
that you're
here.
saying that. I've had like as of late, I've had native English speakers on my content saying, "Wow, this is helping me as a native English speaker." And then as of late, I because I do a lot of LinkedIn audio events, 'cause I do a lot of interviews myself, and I've had native English speakers coming to my events. And so I'm like, I've been kind of wondering about that, like, interesting. I
Don't miss your
don't really know
market.
what to do with that, but it's always just nice when native English speakers tell me that I'm helping them as well. So it's nice.
Yeah, I tell people don't miss your market. Like, yes, stay in your niche, but don't miss the other people who will also see value in what it is you do. And that'll help you, continue to
Yeah.
fine tune. Because yes, I think we can all raise our hands and say we had a physician is like, why are you talking to me like this?
I hear that all the time in a lot of the networking spaces. They're like, "Do you help native English doctors too?" And
You
I'm
need
like, "No, this is for
to,
non-native." And they're like, "Yeah, no, because I went to the doctor and they had poor bedside manner and they were American." And I'm just like, I hear that all the time.
just start saying yes. When in doubt, say yes. That might be your God wink for your business might be, I can help both, because you're not. And I think this is one of those things where people say, oh, is that mission drift? No, it's not mission drift. Your goal is to help alleviate the challenge between patient and practitioner
Mhm,
and have a common language between them.
mhm.
So it's not mission drift, it's brand expansion. And I am totally championing behind all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. You gave me some really good ideas. I'm gonna really think about them. I'm absolutely gonna read this book and look into the market because you're right. I didn't really think about me creating a brand new market, but I am, and that was something that was kind of hard when I was putting my business proposal together because it was really hard to um, find something that was similar to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a challenge. So I appreciate that reminder that yeah, I am creating a brand new market for as far as English communication goes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know we are drawing to a close. This has been so fabulous. Y'all, if you are a medical now I'm overselling you. If you are a
Oh,
medical
thank you.
practitioner with poor ratings from your patients, if you are in the tech industry and you need a little tweaking, or if you are an English non-native speaker who is trying to navigate in major markets, Devon, tell them how they can learn more about you.
I'm primarily on LinkedIn. You can find me just by searching for my name, Devon Bruce. I'm the first one that comes up. You can also check me out on my website at EnglishCommunicationAcademy.com. And also too, if you are not a doctor, but you are in the I work with a lot of people in pharma as well. And I'm also beginning to open it up to nurses because they're more on the front line. So basically, if you're any medical professional that you really feel like you need some help, please find me on LinkedIn, go to my website. I am absolutely here to help you. It is my passion, my absolute passion, helping the helpers.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Devon. Y'all,
Oh, thank you. This
thank
has
you for
been
being
great.
one of 10,000. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all stay tuned till the next time. Lead boldly, spread some joy. Don't forget to become unstoppable.